So, here we go.
He was filled with childish frustrations and complexes. The police are searching for James Thomas, believed to...
Hello, hello, hello. You're listening to Midnight Movie Gang. It is currently 8:24 p.m. Night Movie Gang. My name is Elsie Hines. I'm here with my buddy Jack. Say hi, Jack.
Hello. I believe I am now a scaly manfish, right?
Yeah, you're a scaly manfish. In the reviews and the TikToks, you'll be a scaly manfish. Thank you so much to Joseph Arthurs, my regular co-host, for drawing that. He does all the illustrations and stuff. He's badass.
Yeah, Joseph. That was. If you're listening, Joseph, nice work, dude. It looks awesome.
He better listen to the podcast. I listen back. I'm sure everything's good. He better. Yeah, so for people just tuning in who might not know, this is your first episode, this is like episode 53 or 54. So if you're not on the train already, Midnight Movie Gang, we're a podcast where we mostly talk about cult classics, horror, sci-fi, kind of like the kind of cult genre film. And today, in going with me and Jack's theme of choosing movies with similar titles, we're talking about two movies: Monster, which is a 2003 biographical crime drama film written and directed by Patty Jenkins, and which is kind of a little bit outside of the realm as far as like it's not horror sci-fi, but it's the title.
Yeah.
And then I have things to say about the movie as well. So, and then we're talking about Monsters, which is a 2010 British science fiction horror film written and directed by Gareth Edwards, in his feature directorial debut. So, I'll ask you in a second, but in my experience, I had not seen Monster, the 2003 Monster, before this week. I had seen Monsters in high school, and I didn't really think much of it. And I just rewatched it, like literally right before we started recording, and I've got a very different opinion on it now. But the biggest thing that hit me was after I watched the movie, I looked up the fucking budget. Now, I'm sharing my screen. Do you see this reported budget?
You've got to be. No way.
That's and I looked at the production notes, dude. So, all right, so people don't know, it's audio format. The reported budget of this movie, Monsters, that came out in 2010, directed by Gareth Edwards of Rogue One fame, the reported budget is $500,000. And I don't know if that's adjusted for inflation or anything. But I was looking at just some of the production. Gareth Edwards literally like edited the thing on his home computer. He did all the effects himself, like with like these like 3 consumer level programs.
Really?
And I don't know what you thought about the movie itself yet. And I haven't shared my thoughts yet either, but that by itself.
No, that's outstanding. That adds a whole nother level just to the passion that went into this with Gareth Edwards basically doing everything. That's gnarly.
It's such a fucking feat because I'll say right now, I'm not huge on Gareth Edwards as a filmmaker necessarily for like different reasons, but man, does he know how to spend a budget. Because I don't know if you saw The Creator last year, but that movie only had a budget of $80 million, and I thought it looked just as good, if not better, than any fucking Avengers Star Wars movie out there.
Yeah, I did not see it. I heard good things, but I haven't gotten around to it.
The Creator was cool. It's definitely worth look. We don't have a full episode on it, but it peeps if you want to go back. There is like an episode where me and Joseph kind of discuss our thoughts on it. But yeah, so as far as the movies go, Jack, what movie did you want to talk about first?
Let's do chronologically. Let's start with Monsters. You got it up on the screen. I feel like it's a good place.
Yeah, with Charlize Theron. That's the one I wanted to start with too. Yeah, because I think I'll have more to say with Monsters. But yeah, so Monsters 2003 is an American biographical crime drama film written and directed by Patty Jenkins, who later went on to direct Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 1984. The film follows serial killer Eileen Wuornos,
I believe, yeah.
Wuornos, a street prostitute who murdered 7 of her male clients between 1989 and 1990. The movie's based off a real person, although there's some discrepancies between what really happened and the movie. There was definitely a lot of changes.
Yeah.
Stars Charlize Theron as the main character and Christina Ricci as her semi-fictionalized lover Selby Wall, who has a real life who they changed. Her lover, her love interest is that whole plot line very different than in real life. But I kind of want to more judge the movie by itself, just as a film, rather than like an interpretation of real events.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, Jack, had you seen this movie before? What's your experience with Patty Jenkins? What's your experience with Charlize Theron as an actress? Movies you've seen her in? Christina Ricci. Tell me your past with this.
Yeah. So the only Patty Jenkins movie I had seen up to this point was Wonder Woman. I'm trying to remember what else off the top of my head she's done. I don't know if you've got it.
I think it's literally she directed. I know that it was a big gap between Monster and Wonder Woman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so 2003 Monster, 2017 Wonder Woman. And then there's a movie. Yeah, those are only 3 movies that she's directed.
Wow.
She's done a lot of TV. She's directed a lot on TV as well. I don't know a whole lot about her direct backstory, but yeah, yeah, damn, that's a big gap. Fucking 14 years.
That's
between
huge.
Monster and Wonder Woman.
I guess looking at the TV shows, The Killing looks like she got a bit in there, an episode of Entourage. So yeah, she looks like she bounced around a bit, but even in between the episodes of TV, it's pretty big gaps.
Yeah. Yeah, so familiar with those movies. Charlize Theron, you a fan?
Yeah, no, I really like Charlize Theron. There's a movie actually on Netflix. I don't know why this is the first one that came to my mind. It's called The Old Guard.
Oh yeah, where she's immortal.
Yeah, where she's immortal and they just go around and they do pew-pews with their guns, and that's pretty fun. I always knew that she was always in the limelight, and I always appreciated her in her performances. I actually just watched Long Shot, and Long Shot
and Seth Rogen.
Yeah, the Seth Rogen comedy, and her performance in that is genuinely really great. She does comedy. I never associated her as a comedic actress, but she does it really well, and it's actually interesting because there are comedic undertones, like in a very sinister way, to this movie. Because this movie, I mean, there are definitely like thriller elements to it. Obviously, we'll get to the really dark, disturbing parts, but there's elements of like a rom-com, if that's appropriate to say.
Oh no, yeah, for sure. There's like kind of like a zany the way I put this movie, while I was watching it, I was thinking like this is like true romance meets, and this might be a bit like meets Love Lies Bleeding, which Love Lies Bleeding is basically like true romance, but it's got kind of like a Bonnie and Clyde, like wild kind of energy. Yeah. And there definitely is some like humor and levity that comes out of that as well. And I feel like a lot of it just comes down to the chemistry between Charlize Theron and Christina Ricci. Like I feel like they like work really well together, and I very much bought them like falling in love. It does have that weird kind of energy. Yeah, I agree.
I do appreciate their chemistry. I think the two of them together in this movie, it's a believable enough of a relationship, especially like from the start when they first meet in the bar, and then as the movie progresses and more the truth of the situation peeks out, like it's pretty believable for the like just this levels of denial initially from Christina Ricci's character, and then just all of a sudden it progresses into just what you end up seeing later on in the movie. It's pretty emotional, and the two pull it off together very well.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. It's like a big complicated relationship, and it pretty much is. Like there aren't really any other legit characters, I guess, aside from like Charlize Theron has her, I was gonna say landlord, the guy who runs the storage unit that she's living out of, and then Selby's, the people that Selby's staying with, are really kind of. But aside from that, it's pretty much this could almost be like a 2-man, 2-woman play, like with just Charlize Theron and Christina Ricci. Like they, they're the heart. But yeah, as far as like my experience with this movie, I hadn't seen it up to this point. Funnily enough, the main reason I know about this movie is through the movie theater that I worked at in high school. We had the trivia that we played before in the pre-show like tracks. They never changed the whole time that I was there, and there was like a quiz question in there talking about like who played Eileen Woodrose in the 2003's Monster, and that was like the quiz question, and Charlize Theron was the right answer. And I always thought to myself like, oh, I should watch that movie, because they show like the screenshot they show of her from the movie in in that little trivia thing at the theater I worked at was like her with like really wide eyes just pointing the gun, just like looking freaked out. And I'm like, I want to see that movie.
Oh shit.
I want to see what's got her so freaked out. And it's also like I feel like most of the time when I hear like when there's a new movie with her, I hear Monster come up. Like with when Mad Max Fury Road came out, people are talking about like, oh, it's her best performance since Monster or whatever. Like, you got to check out Monster. She's great in Monster.
Yeah.
So it's one that I've always wanted to watch. And yeah, I mean, we can get into like some of the story points of the movie. But yeah, basically the movie, it takes place in the 80s. And the opening is kind of we kind of get like a little quick summary of Eileen kind of talking about her early life, like her childhood and kind of like her dreams and stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's told in kind of a unreliable narrator kind of fashion where she's making things then again she's making things seem a bit lighter than they actually are.
Yeah.
Like we see like she talks about how like early on, like, you know, she wanted to be like oh, I remember what I was going to say earlier as far as what this movie felt like. It was True Romance meets Maxine.
Okay.
Was what I was thinking. I felt a little bit of things of like, I feel like Maxine took a little bit from this movie. Like, and took it kind of more in a fantastical realm, because there's a lot of similar themes about like a woman kind of like taking her trauma and like trying to like grow from it and you know, like construct something from it. But yeah, we get this intro of her life. We see there's like a flashback scene where, like, you know, early, like, she's like a teen and she like shows her boobs to these teen boys for money, and it kind of like starts like, you know, we see her kind of like start to go into becoming a prostitute and stuff, and initially accidentally, really, and she just wants someone to like basically find her and like take her and take care of her and stuff. Is kind of like, she talks about like her dream. She wants to be found like Marilyn Monroe. Yeah. Yeah, no, so like, what did you think of and then we see her like sitting on the side of a road, like holding a gun, considering killing herself. And yeah, what did you think of the opening?
The opening set the stage pretty well. You mentioned the unreliable narrative. I believe it's later on in the movie where she talks about what she wants to be, or what she wanted to be when she grew up, because she started off with the whole like, oh, I always wanted to be like a silver screen, an actor, actress, and then she says later just like, oh, I just wanted to be, I don't know, not president, or just like, oh, I just wanted to be
I wanted to be a lawyer. Yeah,
something like that. It's this. There is the unreliable, and considering just what we know that she is, or what she becomes later on towards the movie, there is that lack of transparency that she has, even with Christina Ricci's character, and we're getting that too as an audience. And I think it's conveyed pretty well even from the start. And then the bar scene after, where she meets Christina Ricci's character. You get that first glimpse of their personalities, not necessarily clashing, but starting to kind of wiggle in together. I like the way that was handled too. The writing's very believable. The setting of the bar, it just feels like grimy 80s, like
a grimy Florida bar.
Yeah. But no, it definitely started off strong, and the direction that it ended up going with, once we learn a little bit more about her during her start of her profession, to a very intense scene. Later, like,
took me off guard.
Yeah. Do you want to jump right into that, or?
I mean, yeah, well, the next thing that really happens in the movie is, Eileen meets Christina Ricci's character Selby at a gay bar. Eileen doesn't know that it's at first a gay bar, and she gets all defensive, basically being like, "Hey, yeah, but I'm not gay," you know, type thing. When Selby tries to talk to her, and clearly, yeah, Selby's gaydar is off the wall because she's like, "No, I want to talk to you." They drink all night. They have a good time. Selby invites her home, to where she. A little bit of this plot line kind of confused me, but Selby's character, she's like supposed to be, I think, in like her early teens. In real life, Eileen's real life, I was going to say love interest, her lover in real life was 24 when they met. I don't know how old Selby's supposed to be, but I kind of read her as like a late teens. But she's staying with these people who are like friends of her parents, because she's from Ohio, and she got basically sent down to Florida to basically get like straightened out, quote unquote, because she was accused of kissing like a girl at her church or a girl at her school or something like that, along those lines. And yeah, Selby sneaks Eileen into this conservative house that she's staying in, and they spend the night together. And eventually they go out again. They kind of like reveal their feelings to each other. In a really cute roller skating scene. I feel like the first act of this movie, basically, when they're just kind of like getting to know each other. I understand what you mean by kind of like rom-com-esque. Like, it is just like a story of these two like getting to know each other and like starting to flirt and stuff, you know. And I, at that point, I'm like, yeah, like, you know. And she's like, leading up to that really uncomfortable scene, the scene we're going to talk about, the rape scene that's coming. Eileen is trying to get money to get a hotel room for the two of them so that they can, so they can fuck.
Yeah.
Basically, right? And and I had a weird thing. I'm like, yeah, you get that money so you can fuck Christina Ricci. And basically, she one of the clients that Eileen gets, Vincent Corey, it says in the. I didn't even remember the dude's name in the movie. Basically starts to get violent, knocks her out, and it's an awful rape scene. I mean, what did you want to say about the scene in particular? It's just it's terrible. It's awful.
Well, I knew about that was a big thing. It was a huge tone shift. Like,
yeah.
It was. I mean, granted, the subject matter is very stark, but I didn't expect it just to be because her face is all bloodied. And then eventually she ends up killing him, but just the way that he was talking to her, like I gotta cleanse you, or whatever he said. It was
you gotta cleanse you. He starts to cover her. I think it's implied that it's gasoline, like he's gonna burn her body afterwards. Is what I thought it was. Sorry, go ahead.
I thought it was like antiseptic, like hydrogen peroxide, or like
it could have been
covering the wound. I don't know. It was pretty unclear. Either way,
it doesn't matter. She's beat up and stripped and things and tied to the car, and things really aren't good. No. But she manages to get herself free from the ropes, and she shoots the dude. Quite justifiably. Shoots him, steals his car, and then at this time, Christina Ricci thinks that she's been stood up because they were supposed to meet at the roller rink again. But yeah, no, just talking a little bit more about this scene. I mean, yeah, it is I guess what it does is it does like give you an idea, I guess, at this point about how because I feel like the overall message of the movie is kind of like the overall message of the movie is like, how do I put it? You are supposed to feel wrong that she was given the death penalty. I think is what the movie is trying to, which I personally do. I mean, this isn't necessarily a political podcast, but as far as like, she didn't really have any other choice in life other than to do this profession, and this is like part of the dangers that comes with it. And I mean, it's effective in that, it gave me sympathy to every single other dude that she kills from this point forward. I'm like, yeah, fuck them all.
Yeah.
And that scene certainly drives it home. I don't know. I will say this, how do I put it? As far as rape scenes in movies go, it wasn't the absolute most heinous like that I've seen. Like, it was very quick. It wasn't very violent, but yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it set the stakes for what was to come, So what I was trying to say.
Yeah, especially with you mentioned the Johns over the course. I believe it's I'm trying to remember. It's the second John that she kills, where it's like a lot less apprehension. She just well, granted, the first one it's more, hey, I'm like starting to like yeah, like I'm finally
Well,
free. Like I'm gonna.
The
take...
first one was legitimately in self-defense, like
Yeah.
as far as like it was like he was gonna attack her.
Mhm.
And then like afterwards she kind of starts to get the vendetta, and by the end of the movie she's like actively enjoying killing people.
Yeah.
You know.
And then it gets to the last one. If we're, I don't know if we want to jump right into the last person that she kills.
Yeah, we can jump around a bit if you want. If there was something about the scene you want to
Gotcha.
talk about.
Well, the last person that she kills is a cop. So it's is it a cop, trooper? I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but
an officer of the law. I didn't like we just saw the badge, and she's like, it's a cop car.
He does the law.
Yeah, he's a man with a badge and a gun.
It's like Mr. Business from
it's
Mr. Business from BoJack Horseman.
It's Judge Dredd. She got Sylvester Stallone. Judge Dredd was trying to fuck.
You betray the law.
The law. We got to do a Dredd versus Dredd episode.
Oh Jesus, I would have so much fun with that. I haven't seen the original. I mean the 95
the 90s one.
Yeah.
The 90s one's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's got great music. And great the introduction of Dredd's character in that movie is so fucking good.
I am the law.
The law. But yeah, so the last scene where she kills the dude.
Yeah, so she kills the dude and then she frantically goes back into the apartment, and I believe this is the scene where she breaks the news to Christina Ricci's character, right? It's right after she kills the cop.
Breaks the news of what? That she's been Christina Ricci, that she's been killing people?
Yeah.
Well, no, Christina Ricci knew that she'd been killing people. Oh wait, you know what? At that point, Christina Ricci only thought that she killed one person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because earlier in the movie, Eileen admits to killing in self-defense.
Yeah.
But Christina Ricci thinks at that point she's just like normal hooking, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then she reveals that she's been killing people because it's a cop.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, no, I think the reveal might have happened a bit earlier, and because Eileen shows Christina Ricci. I'm switching between the character and actor names so much. Eileen shows Christina Ricci the newspaper clippings that she's been collecting because, like, a la serial killer type of way, she's like collecting the newspaper clippings of all of her killings, you know. Mm-hmm. And I remember when she reveals it after they drive the car into the mailbox of that old couple.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what set it off, because, like, you know, Charlize Theron's freaking out about the car, like, fuck, like, the car, this is a dead man's car, you know. Mm-hmm. Which makes sense to me as far as, like, yeah, it makes sense that she just swaps the car every time because they're going to be looking for the previous dude's car, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get away with anything before the internet, let me tell you.
It does play kind of into the believability of just, like, being able to get away with it, because it was in the 80s. Like, you could fucking do anything. Like, who's got a cell phone? No one. I think
it was. It was in the 80s. It was in the middle of nowhere, and also I'm sure that the cops at the time, like in real life, like I'm sure that the cops in the time did not, at least before, early on in the investigations, they probably did not assume that it was a woman doing these killings. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like for the most part they're probably gonna like mostly be profiling men as far as like who they're suspecting of a serial killer. So like that by itself probably went over their heads for a while. Mm-hmm. But yeah, let me see. As far as the middle of this, I wanted to talk a little bit about probably the scene, the section of the movie that made me feel the most sympathy towards Charlize Theron's character. Like, I felt so sad when she was going out and trying to get like a legit job.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't want to kill anymore. She didn't want to prostitute anymore. She's just like trying to go out there, get like any kind of job. And they just kind of take one look at her, and that's another thing too. Like, in this movie, she looks fucking crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. For those who haven't seen it, Charlize Theron put on what was like 20 pounds of weight, and the makeup's, like, the facial prosthetics are pretty insane. There's some subtle details too, but like the sizing of her, the way that she opens her eyes, the sizing of her eyes, her eyebrows.
she's got these like big fake teeth that like jut out, and yeah, she has no eyebrows like whatsoever. And like she has the big crazy 80s hair that like is just constantly greased back. Like her clothes are like always she definitely committed like visually to the role for sure. So basically she has this like outfit with like a lot of like this kind of suit that she hobbled together, and she's trying to get all these jobs, and everyone's just rejecting her because of, you know, not just because of like how she's behaving and like what they see, but also because she has zero like work. Doesn't have anything on a resume.
Yeah,
you know. And there's the one lawyer man who's like super mean to her, you know, being like, fucking, I'm offended that you even came in here, you know?
Right. Yeah. No, it's so you mentioned earlier how she was like kind of conditioned or set up to fail from the start, just because, I mean, like society and just their background, she had no way to escape it. And you see right there, every time she tries to, it's just, she has no way of getting out of the situation she's in.
This walked so Joker could run. You know? I guess in a lot of ways there is that you could actually put some comparison between, like, this is like one of the, it's kind of like a Taxi Driver, like a Falling Down. You could put it in those categories of like someone just has a bad day kind of movies.
Falling Down's a good comparison.
Yeah, for sure. It's like kind of going around. I could see a version of this movie where like if there's no Christina Ricci character and it's just like following Eileen through like a day of like trying to hide a body or something. Like that could be like a whole movie by itself.
Yeah.
But side note, another great movie with Charlize Theron that I honestly love to do an episode about today. Did you see Atomic Blonde?
When it first came out, I admittedly don't remember much about it. Besides,
it's so good. It's better than any of them John Wick movies after the first one, in my humble opinion. Let's see. As far as like other kind of scenes in the movies, there's, let's see. Sorry, I'm just kind of rolling around.
No, it's all good.
In it, but basically, by the end of the movie, Selby. So after like Charlize Theron kills the cop, they decide that Selby's gonna go back to Ohio to her dad, while Eileen goes to a bar after she drops Selby off at the bus station, and she gets lured away by these two cops, these two undercover cops, and she gets arrested because they found her out.
Yeah.
And then, you know, at the end of this movie, like we kind of see a little bit of a montage of like her going to jail and going to trial and stuff. And Christina Ricci, what's the word? Christina Ricci speaks against her, you know, in court. Points her out, and you know, they make it say that it was planned, but it definitely still felt like a betrayal, you know.
Yeah, but it had to be, and I think she had to know. I'm trying to remember what they said on their phone call that they had, because it was more just like not necessarily a setup. It was more like, hey, this is gonna happen. But yeah, no, you have to think, just even considering the relationship they build over the course of the movie, like the death penalty like was gonna end up being like the end of like the destination, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She gets sentenced to death, and that phone call scene too is a really good one because like halfway through, Charlize Theron kind of puts together that, you know, she's like that the cops are listening, you know. And that, you know, they're trying to get her to admit to the crimes. But yeah, no, just like really sad ending, sad movie. Sorry I picked such a downer of a movie, Jack.
No, it's all good. It's Halloween, monsters in the title. There's nothing more spooky than like an actual rape scene, and like
Indeed, nothing scarier. So like overall, I guess we kind of gone through the plot of it. Basically, the only thing we really skipped is like in the time where where Eileen's lying to Selby about the murders, and like they're kind of just like living at large. Was it Selby just wants to be a normal gay girl, just like living life, and Eileen is just afraid of, just doesn't trust people for very good reason, because she's been screwed over.
Although they had their different backgrounds, there was still no real opportunity for either of them to truly get better, despite the belief that Eileen going down to Florida would get her right. Like, you can just tell that desire just may never, if not will never, get satisfied. Like, she'll be stuck in that same rut too. But yeah, that carnival scene, actually, that was another one that I actually really enjoyed. It was them on the Ferris wheel, just the very dour. It's pretty close to the point where just there's Eileen just knows that there's
something wrong.
Yeah,
that the relationship's not going to last. I'm trying to find the picture of the hat that she's wearing. I'm thinking about my prop. I'm thinking ahead. I don't know if you can see my thing. But yeah, no, that Ferris wheel scene definitely is like, you can just tell that she's being pushed away. Yeah, real sad. So I guess overall, before we switch over to Monsters, a slightly more optimistic tale about going through Mexico. I was about to make a bad joke. Going through Mexico to meet some aliens. Overall thoughts on Monster? Like, what did you give it? What'd you give it on Letterboxd? Would you recommend it to people?
I think I gave it like a 7 out of 10. It's a very performance-driven movie, and of course with her, she won the Oscar for this in 2004, I believe. Very performance-driven, but not just by her, but Christina Ricci too. She also does a great job carrying a section, like her scenes in the movie. You mentioned the phone call scene, like that's a powerhouse of 2 great performances, like coming to the end of the relationship. But yeah, well done. I'm really surprised that this is like her only movie she directed before Wonder Woman.
I think it was a thing of, like, I don't see a lot of linkage between the direction in this movie versus, because I guess when I think about it's not that the movie wasn't poorly directed, but the direction wasn't necessarily what stood out to me.
It took a backseat to the writing and the performances, which isn't always a bad thing. Yeah, because I think about, like, I doubt that if you put this performance in like a Roger Deakins shot Blade Runner 2049 Denis Villeneuve, that it would have the same impact as when the whole movie's basically about the performance and the situation that they're in.
Yeah. It's really, really just tight, well done kind of crime drama. Like a darker true romance for sure. And I think I gave it 4 stars or 3.5. Definitely not one I'm gonna return to a lot, but I'm glad I saw it. What prop do you want?
This is a tough one. I'll do the go-kart. I'll do the go-kart she's riding into the carnival. It was just a little undersized. It was kind of cute. I'll rip the go-kart.
Yeah, the go-kart's a good choice. As you can see, I'm trying to remember what was on her trucker hat. I looked up. Oh wait, what did it say? Was it like a pizza? Visit Colorado Paradise. Yeah, I want her Colorado. It's artisan. What does that say? Artisan's Paradise or Fisherman's Paradise? I just want her trucker hat.
Yeah, I think it's fish. Yeah, it's Fisherman's Paradise.
Yeah, Fisherman's Paradise. I want the trucker hat. I want the look. I want the vibes. For sure. You know what else with Charlize Theron? I always confuse her with Nicole Kidman, because they're both like Australian blonde, skinny
Oscar-winning actors.
Yeah, like when I see that goddamn AMC intro, I'm like, oh, it's Charlize Furiosa.
That's my favorite side note on Reddit. Like, that's been the, like, for shit posts, that's been like the comment that people will post when it's like absolute cinema. It's just the picture of Nicole Kidman in the AMC commercial.
Yeah.
Ah, man, good meme.
There's a what's it called? Have I told you about the podcast Dungeons and Daddies? You
have not, no.
It's a Dungeons and Dragons like real play podcast. It's a whole thing. I won't get into it here, but the reason I bring it up is because they did for their 3rd season of the podcast, they made like a video parody of the AMC, like of that video, where it's like I was gonna say the only girl on the podcast, Beth May, like she played the Nicole Kidman character, and it was just like exactly the same, lit the same, like it was so impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, really funny. But yeah, that was Monster. And now let's move on to just checking the time here. 34. Moving on to Monsters, directed by Gareth Edwards, which I feel like we're gonna have a little bit more to talk about because it's Monsters is a 2010 British science fiction horror film. I don't necessarily know about horror, but we can get into that.
Yeah.
Written and directed by Gareth Edwards, and his feature directorial debut. It's his first feature. Yeah, so long story short, the movie is about, it takes place in a world where a NASA space probe that had some alien goo on it crash lands in Mexico, and over the course of 6 years, it's 6 years after the crash, at the point in the movie we're in, there are alien creatures that have kind of grown and spawned in the area, and like a lot of Mexico is considered an infected zone. And in this movie, we're following Scoot McNairy, who plays Andrew Colliter, who is a photojournalist who is tasked with escorting his employer's daughter, Samantha Wyndon, played by Whitney Able, who I have not seen in fucking anything else.
I had no idea that she was a person at all.
And I thought, legit, before I restarted this movie, I'm like, oh, it's Mackenzie Davis, isn't it? Like, and I think the reason I was thinking that is because Mackenzie Davis and Scoot McNairy, they're the couple in See No Evil.
Oh, yeah.
The new See No Evil. So I'm like, oh yeah, it's Mackenzie Davis, right? Another tall blonde woman. Yeah, no. So they're basically they are going through the infected zone, trying to get back to America, trying to avoid some aliens. What did you know about this movie beforehand? What is your history with Gareth Edwards and his filmography? What do you think of Scoot McNairy? Let it rip.
Yeah, I don't know anything. I didn't know anything about this movie coming into it. Yeah, I think I almost watched that Korean Monsters
by accident.
But no, I knew nothing. Gareth Edwards. We talked about this a little bit off the pod. I guess I just never really like connected with his movies on a very heavy level, but I also never really thought, like we mentioned, the distinct visual style he's got, because all of his movies are very well shot and crafted. Like, I do really, really like the first Godzilla. The Godzilla directed in 2014. I mean, I've got like the issues with the characters aside. It definitely has a style, and we'll talk about it a little bit. He understands scale very well.
100% he does.
Yeah, and that's definitely rings true. We'll get to that in a little bit. And actually, it's amazing with the budget that he had that he was able to present it.
When I read even that opening of this movie would be $500,000 fucking dollars with someone else's shit
for the costumes alone, like the costumes and like the Humvee, the military equipment, like that's like a $200,000 shot set alone. But no, I was just like going through like his previous movies. I mean, I didn't really connect well with Rogue One. I'm not really huge on Star Wars in general, but Rogue One didn't really do it for me personally. I did like Godzilla, but yeah, I didn't really feel much of a distinct style for him until actually watching this movie. And then Scoot, my guy Scoot, he's always been good. He's never been at the forefront for me, but his I know he's in he's in *Halt and Catch Fire*. That was probably my first introduction to him. I never finished *Halt and Catch Fire*, but he's good in that.
I've never seen that.
It's a TV show, limited run TV series on, I believe it was AMC back in the early 2010s. Lee Pace is in it. Funny enough, I think Mackenzie Davis is in that too.
Interesting.
Let me see.
They must like to work together.
Yeah, Mackenzie. Either way, I stand. He's but no, he's great in this movie. I do think the performances are strong. I don't think the characters are necessarily the strongest, but I think he does well with what he's given.
Yeah. Between the two of them, or two leads, or two actors, are the only actors credited in the cast on Wikipedia here. I think he definitely has a little bit more going on, just like writing wise, as far as like where his character is coming from and what he does. Like her character is kind of like she's a rich girl in Mexico kind of thing. I don't even think the movie tells us why she's down there.
No, it doesn't, and I think that's a good choice. She's just, I guess I was going to bring that up too. I do like that they just kind of put them both in the situation. It's more,
Mhm.
We're not really given anything more than just, yep, she's engaged. She needs to make her way back up. Scoot's got to bring her up. That's it. Nothing more than that. It's a lot. It's very stalkerish.
Mhm.
At least like the journeying through the zone. Granted, like different objective. But I mean, they're not trying to find immortality. They just want to stay like
Yeah.
mortal, stay alive. But it's yeah, there definitely is there's a little bit of ambiguity to the reasoning, but they're just like, well, they're here. They're trying to make it out.
Yeah. I don't think there's yeah. I was about to say I'll get into kind of like my history of the movie as well, but I realize there isn't necessarily a whole point between going through the plot because I feel like most of this movie is like a little tour through alien Mexico. While watching this movie, I got a lot of vibes of like I hate to do this whole retro thing of like a new movie that this is me. I was thinking of Civil War.
Yep, 100%.
So fucking much during this movie, not just because he's a photojournalist, but just in terms of like, and this is something with Gareth Edwards' style in general is that it feels like a documentary. Like it's all handheld, it's all super great, and the creator. I know you haven't seen it yet, but it feels the exact same way. Where like we're just in the creator. Like we're in a world where like robots have been living with humans for like decades at this point, and we're so naturally in the world. And in the movie, the creator, I believe, takes place in Vietnam, and it's like there are robots living in these like rural areas, and it's just he Gareth Edwards does such a good job at taking fantastical elements and making them feel mundane and like real. Like throughout this movie, there's so many scenes of like you see like kids kids TV programs and stuff that like have the aliens in them, or like you see there's like a lot of graffiti of the aliens and stuff in the background of places in this movie, which still is just blowing my mind that like he was able to just put all this texture for $500,000 just as far as like just as far as like feeling this, like being able to feel this world. But I just want to say my history with the movie and Gareth Edwards. I watched this movie in high school because I was anticipating his Godzilla film, and I just saw in his filmography like, oh, his only other movie he directed called Monster. So I watched it in high school, and it was not memorable to me in high school whatsoever. But watching it back today, I still don't love it, but I was definitely able to appreciate a lot more just of the filmmaking at work, even when I didn't know that the budget was so low, because like I didn't know the budget was so low until after I finished the movie. But just in terms of like it felt like District 9. You know what I mean? Like the same thing with that Neil Blomkamp has, where like you take so good at just taking all these fantastical ideas and themes and just like putting them in such a grounded way. Like I remember my favorite shot of Godzilla 2014 is the POV shot of the high altitude low open jump when they're like when they're jumping out of the plane down into the city, and you just get that POV shot of the soldier like going by Godzilla's mouth while he's roaring, and we're just like inside the goggles. And that's something I love about this movie, in that like, and it was probably a necessity too, is like anytime you see the creatures, I think about the opening, you're from like a soldier's like camera POV. Or like when you see it, you see a creature on a monitor, which I'm sure that a lot of that was within the constraints of like the budget and like the resources they had, but I mean I feel like it served it really well in terms of making it just feel that much more real. But yeah, aside from that though, aside from the visuals and the world feeling like really grounded, I did not give a fuck about either of these characters.
I didn't either, and that was the one thing, that was my alternate thesis of the movie. Like I didn't really, granted I liked how they just kind of put them in this situation, but I didn't really care that he had a kid. I didn't really care that she needed to go to her fiance. At that point, it was just kind of an expose of like the world itself. But they're just not written in a very compelling way. Unfortunately, I didn't feel.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like they don't really give her a character at all.
Yeah.
And then the only thing he really has is that like he's kind of like a womanizer, a little bit of like a deadbeat dad type of deal, but they don't really like explore anything about it. I also feel like they're the kind of them kissing and like their romance at the end kind of felt like it came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like they kind of flirted early on, like, but I just kind of chalked it up to him kind of being like a little bit of a creep.
It was a little bit of an eye roll at the end because
Yeah.
it's not like it was really going to lead to anywhere anyways. But at the same time, the whole time I was just like, well, okay, well now it's happening. As you mentioned, like there's a little bit of flirtation, but it wasn't anything more than just like the little passing 1-2. But like just the whole like, oh, I've had this kid for however many years. I haven't talked to him. I'm gonna go see him. Was his kid's birthday? I don't know. I stopped listening to him at some point.
Yeah, it didn't feel earned. I think like their romance at the end, like, and it also was. It got cut off so all of a sudden. Something I didn't realize until after watching the movie. Like I didn't know this. Apparently, the opening of the movie, like the black and white like soldier attack, is the ending of it. Like it happens. I didn't realize that until reading the Wikipedia.
Yeah, it clicked. It clicked for me when like you get the little like the dude singing the song. I forget what that song is, but I mean, ultimately, it just like does that mean? Wait, hold on. I guess jumping into spoilers. Do they die? I'm trying to remember if they're dead in that little first scene.
Yeah, well, the Wikipedia says the bodies of Samantha and Andrew can be seen, briefly seen lying in the street, presumably lifeless. So yeah, we're supposed to think that they died, which.
Got it.
Once again, even more like, okay, what was the point? Yeah, I think that this is a problem with Gareth Edwards movies in general. Is that like, I think when it comes down to it, I think it's clear to me he's just not an actor's director. Like the best performances that I've seen from actors in his movies just come from like actors that like from what I understand, just don't need any kind of like. I think about
Bryan Cranston.
Bryan Cranston in Godzilla. Like he's incredible, but he's incredible because he's Bryan Cranston.
He's a product of himself, not a product of the movie.
Exactly. Whereas like, you know, I really like Aaron Taylor Johnson. I've seen him in a lot of stuff, but him in that movie just has nothing going on.
He's a little cardboard cutout. Same with
fucking
there's a little bit more with Elizabeth Olsen's character in that movie, but
yeah.
But yeah, no, they're all just kind of cardboard. You can put any actor in that role, and unless they're like a superstar, you're just like, all right, it's fine. Yeah.
Same thing in The Creator. They have John David John David Washington just has not impressed me in fucking anything, including The Creator. But I
liked him in Black Klansman. I thought he was solid in Black Klansman.
Oh yeah, he was good in that. In that case, that's the only one. But yeah, no, I think when it comes down to it, as far as like, you know, Gareth Edwards has only made 4 movies. I am excited to see, because I heard about this recently. I was looking at Wikipedia. So they're making a new Jurassic World movie. It's not connected. Chris Pratt's not going to be in it. It's like a full kind of new thing. It's going to be directed by Gareth Edwards, which has me interested. But here's the real thing, and I don't think this will say it. This new Jurassic World movie is going to be rated R.
Really?
Yeah. Which just I'm keeping kind of my eye on that, as far as like that has the potential to be something interesting. And you know what? Now that I'm reading this here, he also wrote The Creator, which makes sense. I feel like Gareth Edwards would be able to really shine if he's able to get producers and writers that are more actor focused, and then let Gareth Edwards just focus on the production elements and like the being able to see through like the VFX lens, because it's clear that he's just fucking amazing with it. Getting down to it, were there any I kind of want to talk about the big one at the end, but before we get to the big one at the end, are there any particular kind of like VFX shots or like kind of sequences that like stick out to you in your mind that you want to talk about in this movie?
Honestly, like the cinematography in general is really solid. Like I like the sunrise scenes when they're actually in the I keep saying the zone. I keep thinking Stalker when they're in the infected area. I mean, yeah, that was all cool. I mean, I wasn't really impressed until the the end with the end scene.
Mhm.
Honestly, I couldn't even tell you if there was anything more
Yeah.
VFX heavy than that.
I mean, I really like the little scene on the boat where there's like where they think it's a fin of a creature and it's the jet coming out of the water.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then like there was a creature like kind of crawling around, like responding to Scoot McNeary's camera flashes and stuff. Like I thought that was a pretty tense, cool scene.
Yeah.
I love the opening.
Mm-hmm.
Just in terms of like the creature in the background and like the screams, and just like it felt like I don't know, like a trailer for some crazy sci-fi horror video game or something.
Yeah.
The opening. But yeah, no, that end scene where they're at the gas station and the two creatures, fuck. It's just like, especially for being this, I've been on this kick lately of practical effects just being better than all visual effects, like once so like completely, but they're just implemented so well here for me.
Yeah.
At the end, you know.
Especially with like the textures of the actual animals or monsters, aliens themselves, and the lighting, but kind of ribbony. I was thinking a little bit about Nope, the alien from Nope, with just like the light texture, the fluttering, almost fabric-esque of the actual limbs.
Yeah, this kind of like, well, it's the fact these things, they're basically big squids. So it's the underwater element. I think they feel like I was getting creatures from the Mist vibes. From them, as far as like big spider tentacle monsters. The sound design of them was really good. There was kind of like a nice light score happening around that scene too. Like the colors are really nice. It's just like, and yeah, like you were saying, the lighting was a big help too because the scene's at night, so you're able to hide a little bit more. Like, I think at the end of the day with this movie, I'm just really impressed that it looks of the production of it. Like while I was watching it, I was thinking like, oh, this is a pretty good look. I thought it was between $5 to $10 million.
I thought it was at least 5, and when you pulled up that budget, I was genuinely surprised and honestly very, very impressed.
Yeah. It's definitely a thing where like I think Marvel and like all Star Wars has to take notes where it's like, the bar for, I think we're in an interesting era of filmmaking where like there are like a lot of smaller movies coming out from A24, Neon, and like all these smaller studios where getting that professional look is something that it's so much more available to the consumer now. You know what I mean? Like as far as like so many movies lately are shot on that I think it's called the Sony FX3 is the camera everyone's talking about. That's what the creators shot on as well. Like it's still expensive. I think that camera's like $6,000 or $7,000, but it's still like a camera that like a normal human being can save up for and get.
Yeah.
And make something that looks like a big blockbuster movie,
or at least professional. Yeah.
Yeah, or at the very least, professional. And same thing with effects too. Like, Gareth Edwards made all of the visual effects in this movie, all the creatures, on his fucking laptop in 2010.
That's insane.
Like imagine if he was in the same level of crunch in right now. Like now he has access to like more, larger budgets. Like $80 million is significantly a larger budget than this movie. But like, just what I'm saying is like this rewatching made me realize like fucking Marvel has no excuse. She-Hulk has no excuse to look as bad as it does. Just
Ant-Man
as far as
Quantumania definitely didn't have an excuse.
Ant-Man Quantumania doesn't have an excuse. Like it's a thing where it's like we're at a point with the technology now, like, and the ability to make this kind of art where it's like having visuals that are so bad or so distracting that like it takes you out of the movie is just no excuse.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Overall, I feel like we kind of said our deal with so like, yeah. What'd you give it on Letterboxd?
I think I'd end up getting a 5 or a 6. I wish I could enjoy this movie or get into it a little bit more. I appreciate a lot of Gareth Edwards' choices, the direction. I mean, the budgetary constraints. Like he did what he needed to do with it. But I unfortunately wish I enjoyed this movie a little more.
Yeah. I don't think I'm gonna give it. I try to only letterbox movies that I really haven't seen before. Even though like it has this kind of felt like almost a first viewing since it's been so long. But I'm probably would give it like a 3.5. I mean, production wise, it's a 5 out of 5. Just as far that's really this is really like just kind of my technical brain. Like I'm extremely impressed on a technical level. I just think that how do I put it? I hope that Gareth Edwards in the future either works on developing skills as a filmmaker that he's lacking, or is able to surround himself with a team of people that could do I could almost, if he could co-direct with someone, if he could collaborate with somebody who's a bit more of an actor's director, I think that would really kind of help him move to that next echelon, but I don't know, I'll keep my eye on that Jurassic World movie.
Yeah, me too. That'll be interesting. I'm curious to see how it goes.
Yeah. So prop time. What prop do you want from this movie?
I will do I don't know. I'm blanking. What was interesting in the movie? I'll do a little sliver of the alien. Fine. I'll just get a little fin from the tentacles.
A little fin from the alien fin. Yeah. There isn't necessarily a whole lot in this movie. There aren't even that many fun. I guess I'll just take Scoot McNairy's camera. Or I don't know. I kind of like the little boat that they were riding on in the middle of the movie. Or actually, you know what? No. I changed my mind fully. I want a print of the alien graffiti in that abandoned city they were in.
I'll do you one better. I'll do a VHS cassette of the little animated kids show about the
little anime, how to protect yourself from aliens. Yeah. Oh, they also definitely ripped off Avatar, Blue People Avatar with the when the trees were lighting up. Yeah. And it was the aliens live in the trees. Yeah, good shit. But yeah. In that case, Jack, that was our review of Monster and Monsters. Jack, sorry it got a little dark there for a bit.
No, it's again Halloween, so I'm always down for a little bit dark. I can't just watch schlock all the time.
Halloween vibes. I'm so excited to once I have the short video done, the animated review done, I'll send it to you before I upload it, just so you can have your fish man see your fish man at work.
I'm officially old Greg.
Yeah. I've been calling it the creature from the Jack Lagoon. I've been thinking about as far as kind of making more of a, it'd be fun. I kind of want to make a fictional backstory for all of our monster movie gang characters, as far as how they met. They were all haunting a neighborhood and they went to the same video store. I don't know, some kind of fun.
I'll always take some Midnight Movie Podcast lore. Let's do it.
Maybe a comic. Maybe I'll make a video game. Who knows? It'll all be out there. But yeah, so folks at home, thank you so much for listening. This has been Midnight Movie Gang. It's currently 9:21 Night Movie Gang. And yeah, have a nice night. Bye.
Take care.
So, here we go. It was filled with childish frustrations and complexes which the police are searching for James Thomas, believed to be the lover of Mrs. Williams, and her partner in the horrible murder of Walter. Where's everybody? They're not here. They've all gone. Oh, please tell me where they've gone. Please tell me. Sorry, I don't know. How hopeless that I got in here. 3 tickets to Albany on 6 o'clock train tonight for the old train. Special agent. Special agent.